Welcome to Storytime 66. And welcome to P today as our newest patron. Thank you for joining us for our actual reading. It's really lovely to have you. So our overall theme today, which some people have brought along props or dress ups for, was two related aspects. One, I bought it on the internet. And two, can I wear this? When you're not quite sure if something is acceptable to wear in whatever context. So my little examples of this, on the top here, I have my shorter rolls, and I really wanted a pair of these. But I forgot when I went online and bought them that we don't have any full-length mirror in our new house. In fact, the only mirror we have is the tiny little bathroom one that only shows to about here. So I have no idea how long the shorts are on me, how much of me is showing, or like really what any kind of ensemble outfit looks like. So this was a true can I wear this thing, because I couldn't really get a sense for whether I was comfortable in it. And underneath is another internet purchase. This is my extra small loose fit Redbubble shirt with one of my teacup designs on it, which you can't see unless I undo this, but I'm worried it will fall off, so I'm not going to. Which, as you can see, is not very extra small. I mean, it's taking loose fit to the extreme because it essentially is falling off, and that's this. Yeah, so it's pajamas now. But I can see a whole wardrobe of things behind mum and dad. Are these all internet purchases?
No, they're not all. Barry's put a couple of non-internet things, but his onesie was an internet thing, inspired by Storytime, Albie.
Yes.
That's had quite a bit of wear, but tonight I can't wear any of my items because it's really cold.
Too cold.
And Barry can't wear his onesie because he's seated next to a roaring fire, which is just right.
So the answer to can I wear this is no, because
no, yeah,
comfort reasons. Does anyone else have any internet purchases, or can I wear?
I want to know about Alison's apple.
Alison's apple.
Yeah, okay, I had totally planned a meal for friends following a lovely trip to London, and so I had it all ordered and coming in the morning, so I didn't have to go out. Only apple pie was on the menu, but one apple doesn't feed 4 people. So I had to do a little bit of shopping, and so I had to dash out and get a few more. So I've got to learn to read what I'm putting in. Yeah. And select kilograms rather than singles. We had apple pie, but you had to do an extra trip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know.
This is a wonderful dress-up item.
Yeah, so this is
that's lovely.
Pink wig. Yeah, can you tell?
Pink. Very pink.
It's
very
pink.
It's designed for you to put the pink over the top.
Yes.
My friend was traveling to see relatives in China, and she's like, "Oh, is there anything you want for cheap?" I was just like, "I don't know, get me a pink wig." And so she ordered something to like go to their place for her to pick up, and it was I'm like, that's a wig. It's half there. But I guess the other thing is can I wear this? I mean, I do every single time wear my dressing gown.
You do?
And then whenever we go to book club at my sister's place, it's like, yes, wear your dressing gown. You can wear that.
Okay. I love events where you're allowed to, like, it's expected that you're gonna wear your dressing gown. Very relaxed. That's lovely. Yes, I will at the end show you another little story about getting things on the internet, but it's a bit of a long story and I have to go and get something for show and tell, which I can't bring in here with the rabbits because they might like to chew it. So I'm going to leave that till after the story, and I'll do it later on when we're chatting. But if there are no other sort of show and tell bits, I will go through our other topics. So the first one was Em and Beth's moon for the current time, which is dawn moon, which is about sacrifice, shedding, and using strength built up in previous months. We had unseasonality, delayed due to rain, Rocket the chicken as a character request. What the concept of the ashes, as in the cricket, might mean to children and how they might interpret their own sort of version of the ashes. The concept of rivals, not realizing you're still wearing blank. And I added a couple of things in for P as a new patron. They didn't request anything, but I put in a couple of things that kind of related to our writing interactions and us in general. So in honor of their current work in progress, which there's a tree person and a character has their tree, I've got sort of the idea of having a plant, tree, whatever that is, yours. Or a sense of connection to a certain species. And since we're both expats, the idea of leading two different lives at once. But I have a little poem to get us started, as usual, and this one is called Grey with a Chance of Growth. We're ready to shed winter's dull, wet coat, but the clouds want to stay out late, partying with flashing lights and dimly lit venues where drinks spill unseen and the stickiness lines the walls. We leave our soggy shoes at the door and delay our emergence from the chrysalis of our rooms, stockpiling strength and spirit for the moment that the sun wins the dance off. Now, today's story is called The Sun and the Storm, and this is a very loose reference to Aesop's fable, The Sun and the Wind. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but the concept is that they're being rivals and they're trying to get someone to take off their coat, and the general kind of lesson out of it is that, you know, sometimes by being nice we get what we want rather than being forceful. So, The Sun and the Storm. Lena spread the kitchen scraps over the muddy, straw-covered earth of the chicken coop, sighing at the damp ground as the hens emerged to scratch it up. The sun will come out soon, girls, she told them, wondering whether she was telling them a lie. It had, so far, been an unseasonably wet summer. So much so that the choir that Lena's partner Baxter ran had had to cancel their summer retreat at the farm 3 times, postponing it for finer days that they were beginning to doubt were coming. Where is Rocket today? Lena asked the other chickens, looking around at the usual places. These included the roof of the coop, the roof of the house, the cat bed on the outdoor table, and the big ghost gum tree that stood down the hill in the top paddock. Rocket was an escape artist and a determined flyer. Lena thought she fancied herself to be one of the corellas or galahs that adorned the trees of the farm on summer evenings like strange fruit. Rocket was nowhere in sight right now, though, and Lena tutted to herself. The corellas and galahs were missing too, the strange summer not driving their migration across the land in the same way as most years. A frustrated wail reached Lena's ears then, and she looked around to see Arjun, her son, stamping across the yard in front of the farmhouse, wearing his Wellington boots and a cross expression. "Mom, Rocket's in my bush and she won't get out." By his bush, Arjun meant the butterfly bush that grew next to the rainwater tank. He'd recently made it an essential part of his school holiday routine to sit under the bush in a sort of den he'd hollowed out there and take notes on and pictures of the insect life. This was for no particular purpose, except that Arjun liked record keeping and he liked learning things from data. He'd begun to appreciate the plant for itself now, too. often taking pictures of the multi-flowered stems as well as their six-legged occupants. He would point out other butterfly bushes when they went on walks, the appearance of the species in his day seeming to cheer and calm him. Rocket's occupation of Arjun's bush was therefore a great disruption to his day. Have you tried gently asking her to move on? Lena asked. Given her a bit of a pat on the bottom? Arjun sighed and rolled his eyes. Yes, Mum, she pecked me, look. He showed Lena his finger, which had a small beak-shaped dent in it. And she went, ark, which is chicken for get lost, or sometimes I see food. But there was no food, unless she was thinking of my finger as food. He shuddered. Lena went to see Rocket in Arjun's bush. The hen peered out at her from the shadowiest part of the hollow Arjun had made beneath the plant. One beady yellow eye turned skywards to fix itself on Lena's nose. Arrgh, Rocket said. Lena crouched down and looked at her. The chicken was looking rather scruffy and patchy, gaps showing between her usually lush black and white feathers. Ah, Lena said, you've been as confused by this strange summer as the rest of us, Rocket. You're molting. Rocket shook herself and started having a scratch, and several feathers fell out and dropped on the ground in Arjun's hidey hole. Rocket probably isn't feeling quite herself right now, Lena told Arjun. I think if you want to sit under your bush, you might have to share it with her. Arjun scowled. She'll eat all the insects. Well, Lena mused, she might not stay long. Arjun pulled a face. Then he went inside to look up information about molting chickens on the computer. This reminded Lena that she needed to check the estimated delivery date for a package. It was a package for her other life, unrelated to the farm or Arjun or Baxter's choir. Because while Lena may have been a farmer, a mum to children, human, feathered and furry, and a member of the Sea Cat's choir by day, by night, on certain evenings, she wasn't Lena at all. Madeleine was the name of the person who took to the stage at City Lights Jazz Bar 3 times a week to belt out smooth blues and funky jazz lines. She mixed and drank cocktails, wore sequined dresses and elaborate curled buns, and she was something of a local celebrity. In the summer, she swayed under fairy lights and the distant light-polluted glow of the stars in the bar's beer garden, and patrons flocked to sip cocktails and whisper to one another about her voice. Or they would if it would stop raining. The effect of the strange wet spell on Madeleine's appearances at the bar was significant. First, Lena kept having to arrange and rearrange the night off that she'd scheduled for the choir retreat. Second, on the nights that she did get to perform, the band were forced to relocate indoors to the less than ideally placed platform in the corner. This had its upside, in that it avoided direct competition for stage time between the live musicians and their new rival, a DJ named Izzy, or Dizzy Is for the stage, whose established spot was the one small sheltered nook the beer garden afforded. And third, it was consistently far too cold for Lena to don the sequined cocktail dress with a floaty chiffon skirt and a slit-up one leg that was Madeleine's usual attire. To address this last problem, Lena had purchased a kind of sequined satin suit on the internet. It sounded dreadful when she described it to people, but on the model in the pictures, it had appeared elegant with just the right amount of glitz and glamour. She'd taken her measurements, and she was quite confident that the size she'd chosen was correct. She'd been extra careful, as there were no returns or refunds. As Lena was booting up her laptop at the kitchen table, she didn't like to do those things on her phone, Arjun reappeared with a small plastic container in his hand. It was one of the Tupperware boxes they usually used for things like cut lemons or the last slice of a cake. and on closer inspection, it now contained a collection of dead bugs. Dare I ask? Lena snorted, setting down her cup of tea. Molting chickens need a lot of protein, Arjun informed her. Did you know that feathers are 80% protein? I got all the flies and moths and millipedes from behind my curtain on the windowsill for her. This way, she might not eat the butterflies. She might not want the millipedes, Lena told him. They smell vile. That's because they have oosopores and make nasty smells and tastes to ward predators off, Arjun enlightened her. But Rocket isn't put off very easily when she wants to eat things. Lena replied with skepticism. Arjun's research was accurate, though, as became evident from Rocket's determined pursuit of protein. That evening, the farm cat, Kummen, was trying to eat his strong-smelling meal of fish and jelly on the kitchen floor when Rocket came scuttling out from behind the larder cupboard with a bark, 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 extended her muscular neck to reach into Kummen's bowl beneath his chin, and started pecking up his meal. Kummen flattened himself into a crouch, ears back, and stared at the intruder. Meow, he complained. Ark, Rocket returned, tipping her head on one side to give him the full impact of her beady stare. Kummen backed away and hid under the sofa in the living room, and Arjun had to scoop the cat out and carry him into the laundry for a secret replacement meal of tuna. Rocket's feathers began to appear in odd places. Not entirely unexpected, since she did have a way of getting into, or out of, anything, but always a surprise to discover. Lena found one in her basket of sewing supplies, where she supposed there might have been a bug or two. She didn't, if she was honest, get around to sewing very often. Arjun found several behind the toilet, where, to be fair, there were quite often spiders. Melvin found one in the basket of sheet music next to the piano, which was a bit concerning. And there were regularly several to be found under Arjun's butterfly bush, along with an assortment of bugs that had not made their way there of their own choosing. I can see this is a good place for you to be right now, Rocket, Arjun told her, leaning down to deliver a collection of snails he'd found under the rainwater tank. Oh, answered Rocket, tilting her head to inspect the offering with glee. I'll give up my spot to you for now, Arjun continued. I guess I can make some notes on the bugs you eat instead. He eyed the millipede carcasses in one corner. Looks like Mum was right about the oosopores putting you off. Rocket didn't seem very grateful, but Arjun felt good for sacrificing the butterfly bush hideout all the same. Whilst retreat continued to be delayed due to rain, regular choir practice was held with a the show must go on attitude. Through flooded car parks at the community centre, drenched singers, and rumours of lightning hitting local landmarks. Wading up the footpath or leaving vehicles on the top of the hill and half skating down the muddy park embankment had become routine methods of reaching the choir room in the back of the community centre building. Though at the same time last year, rehearsals had been moved due to the lack of air conditioning, or held to the noisy accompaniment of a pair of pedestal fans covered in wet sheets, now the choristers trooped in rain, hail, or, though not this month, shine. It was what was becoming a typical Monday night rehearsal, soggy shoes leaving glistening tracks on linoleum, and umbrellas being discarded like dead jellyfish by the door, when Izzy came to choir. Izzy, that is, also known as Dizzy Is, DJ at City Lights Jazz Bar, and arch rival of Lena's live jazz band, Watermelon Juice. Lena wasn't sure at first if Izzy recognised her in the sensible navy jumper and jeans, hair in a plait with a ring binder nestled in her arms, no winged eyeliner highlighting her dark brown eyes. Madeleine didn't wear jeans, or require sheet music. It had taken Lena a moment to recognise Izzy without her hair teased up into a hairspray tangle, missing her signature brightly coloured jumpsuit. But when Izzy wrote her email down on Baxter's sign-up sheet, and it was dizzyisdj1@hotmail.com, there could be no pretending that she wasn't the same person. I hope she can't sing was the idea that privately ran through Lena's mind. A rival for performance time was one thing, but a rival for the role of vocalist in Watermelon Juice was quite another. Arjun, meanwhile, was facing a similar challenge. The past few years, it had become something of a tradition for choir member Betty to bring her granddaughter, Annae, along to the choir's twice-yearly retreats at the farm. Arjun and Annae got along well. That is, if you could call Arjun educating Annae on various subjects, including the meaning of acronyms, some of them rather rude, and Annae trying to get Arjun to do her maths homework, getting along. However, they always ended up holding some kind of private competition, and the rivalry could get fierce. Arjun took everything seriously. Annae absolutely didn't, but when it came to any kind of competition, she seemed to find an infinite supply of seriousness, and to suddenly know how to do a lot of things that she'd previously claimed to need help with. At the winter retreat, which always featured a magnificent bonfire, there'd been a lot of talk among the adults about some kind of sporting contest called the Ashes. Neither Annae nor Arjun could make sense of why ashes would make a good prize for something. But then Arjun had come up with some interesting facts about keeping the coals of a fire to start future fires, and how this could be useful for survival on a desert island or during a zombie apocalypse. Perhaps the ashes were actually useful coals. Annae had then mused that anything could be a valuable prize if it was a piece of an important moment, and reminded Arjun of how, at a previous retreat, the two of them had sort of saved the day by getting the adults to use flaming marshmallows to replace sparklers that had run out. This led to a competition to see who could start a fire from the coals of burnt-out marshmallows. Neither of them succeeded at this venture. Then this led to a marshmallow cooking race, which Annae won because she didn't care what kind of stick she used and Arjun did. And finally, several marshmallows with burnt exteriors and gooey insides, a state that both agreed was perfect, were interred in a jam jar for Annae to take home as her Ashes trophy. There was a bet about these marshmallows. Based on the idea that coals from a fire might stay hot over time, Annae said that the marshmallows would still be warm next retreat, which Arjun told her was silly because it was far too long and they would be in a jar deprived of oxygen. But Annae bet on it anyway, because she always burnt her tongue on them, it seemed to her, no matter how long she waited after removing them from the flames. Arjun had bet her, however, that the marshmallow ashes would still be edible by next retreat, owing to their high sugar content and firm burnt casing. Annae didn't think any food lasted that long, but Arjun suspected that this was because Annae had never refrained from eating sweets long enough to find out. Now, however, with the ongoing damp weather posing a potential threat to the burnt marshmallow's crispy exterior, and the date of the summer retreat being pushed ever further backwards, Arjun had concerns about his ability to win back the ashes through this bet. He wondered what else he and Annae could compete over this time that might give him a second chance. Perhaps communicating with animals would pose a challenge for Annae. Arjun thought meows and squawks often made more sense than words, but Annae, he knew, only meowed back at him to pretend she understood. Back at choir practice, Izzy and Lena were having an unexpectedly good chat during their break. What had perhaps made this work was that neither of them had mentioned their other lives performing at City Lights. Here, they were different people, and their jazz club alter egos were left where they belonged, at the jazz club. This was lucky, because Izzy had been standing behind Lena while they learnt the alto part for the Rose, and Lena had therefore gained some important but distressing information. Izzy could sing, very well, in fact. But this didn't matter in the context of choir. Here they were a team, and Izzy's excellent voice could be an asset. At this moment, it had also provided them with something in common to talk about, and the two of them were having a delightful time, complaining heartily over the relative lack of appreciation for the alto vocal range. This was sometimes a benefit of living two very separate existences, as both Lena and Izzy, it seemed, did. The two could be kept separate, and any people who crossed the space between one and the other did not need to bring their history or even their first impressions with them. Baxter played a few chords on the piano at this juncture to draw the attention of the choir back to practice. "All right, now," he announced, smiling around at them. "For the time being, we're all going to learn this next section. However, down the track, for a bit of variety, I would like it to be a solo. It's probably best suited to the alto range. So, altos, if you could pay special attention, please. When we finally get to hold our retreat, I will have a listen and choose a soloist from those interested then." Lena felt Izzy's eyes slide in her direction. She tried not to do the same back. She tried not to let the fairy-like glamour of city lights creep outside of its 3 nights a week box to infect her and Izzy here in their other lives. She cursed Baxter for introducing a solo, and, though she was fully aware that it would be dreadful to do so, for not just asking her to do it. When Lena and Baxter arrived home from choir practice, Rocket was sitting in Cummin's cat igloo in the living room, being fed peas by Arjun. Cummin himself was on the sofa, glaring, but apparently too intimidated by the chicken to try to win his house back. There was also a large padded postbag on the kitchen table with Lena's name on it. Lena took her parcel and hurried to the bedroom to try on the contents, leaving the displaced and disgruntled cat and spoilt chicken to Arjun and Baxter's care. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Baxter and Arjun opened a parcel of their own, containing what had been described online as a campfire cauldron. Baxter was hoping to use this for the winter choir retreat to make an enormous volume of soup for everyone. "I don't think it had any measurements in the description, did it, Dad?" Arjun asked, looking down at the small pot, which, at best, was the size of a small cereal bowl. "Maybe it's just meant for one person when they go camping." Baxter looked at it with a forlorn sigh. "Yes, perhaps that's what it is." He rummaged around in the empty parcel box, producing only brown wrapping paper. "In the picture, didn't it have a sort of stand, to hold it over the fire?" Arjun nodded. "Yes, it was sitting up on a frame like a tripod." He looked at the tiny cauldron. "Maybe you have to buy that separately, Dad." Baxter snorted. "I'm not sure we'll bother, will we?" "No," Arjun replied. "I think calling it a cauldron was a little bit misleading." Baxter put the pot on the kitchen stove. "I think we'll just use it for warming up milk and things." In the bedroom, Lena was looking into the mirrored doors of her wardrobe at the sequined suit. It came with a beaded blouse, which had looked very elegant in the pictures, but now that she had it, seemed to be entirely transparent, apart from the beaded sections at the neck and hip. Lena wasn't sure she had appropriate undergarments for wearing under a completely see-through top, but she supposed she could get something. For now, she could probably just button the suit jacket over it. Upon trying to do so, she learnt that the buttons were for decoration only, as there were no corresponding buttonholes. Lena could sew, but buttonholes were for experts. She'd have to ask her fellow choir member, Barb. She twisted side to side, letting the sequins on the jacket sparkle, trying to decide whether there were too many of them. The fact that there were also some on the suit trousers was a bit overboard and hadn't been evident from the pictures. But maybe it would be okay in the context of a jazz bar. City Lights certainly saw its fair share of sequins. At least the suit fitted, apart from being a little tight in the elbows. Can I wear this? She mused to herself. Can I pull it off? After a few moments' contemplation, Lena decided that she could get away with wearing this very glittery ensemble, but only 4 jazz performances. She might need to get changed at City Lights while this weird weather lasted, and not travel in the outfit. Now, somewhere, she definitely had a suit bag that she could use for that. Lena went digging through the boxes at the bottom of her wardrobe and was soon lost in a sea of items she hadn't realised were still in there. She sifted through an array of colourful choir scarves, setting most of them aside to give away. She pulled out a very nice pair of boots, which didn't fit because she'd misunderstood the sizing chart on the website they came from, or perhaps because it was plain wrong. She placed them by the bed to remind herself to offer them to her friends. She was just starting to look through all her blouses, choosing which to keep and which to donate to charity shops, when a shout came from the kitchen. "Mom!" This was followed by some loud crashing of pots and pans and packets. "I told Dad I'd put spaghetti on, but there isn't any spaghetti." Lena sighed and put all the remaining blouses in the charity pile. "Okay, we can go to the shops. Just let me get a bag." She closed the wardrobe and made her way to the laundry to get the reusable shopping bags and her shoes. She could make something else for dinner, but spaghetti was something Arjun and Baxter agreed was good, which was rare. And also one of the first things Arjun was learning to cook, which was not a skill she wanted him discouraged from practicing. Since it was raining again and getting late for cooking, they hopped into the car for the trip and pulled into the shopping centre car park just as choir member Betty and her granddaughter Annae were coming out of the automatic doors with a trolley full of tomatoes. "What are all those for?" Arjun asked, eyeing Annae with a challenging stare that dared her to come up with an interesting answer. "We're going to make tomato soup from scratch, and then Grandma's going to dribble it, and I'm going to take pictures of her for her vampire laughing stuff," Annae answered. While she was explaining this, her eyes kept leaving Arjun's curious face to settle on Lena. Lena shrugged it off. Kids Arjun and Lena's age got distracted by strange things sometimes. Yesterday, Arjun had spent an entire hour picking up rocks to help Rocket find worms, and then another 2 hours drawing diagrams of Rocket's body in different positions with headings such as "Gargark 3, surprised." "I hear the sun's going to come out next week," Betty was saying. "Perhaps we can finally have our choir retreat." Betty was a soprano, so despite the fact that she was rather a diva about her singing at times, she was not a rival for the alto solo. This did not, of course, prevent her from wanting to know all about it. "Are you going to try out for the solo, Lena?" "Uh-huh," replied Lena, one eye on Arjun and Annae, who had pulled one another aside and were whispering. Inside the shopping centre, Lena found that it was not just Annae who kept looking at her, especially after she got a bit too warm in the heated aisles and slung off her jacket, folding it over the trolley handle. Her jacket, her sequined jacket. Lena looked down at her entirely sheer blouse, just as a cheeky teenager with their arms full of junk food shouted, "Nice bra!" passing her with a grin. The bra that Lena had on today was off-white with pink rosebuds on it. Whilst the sheer beaded blouse might have looked good in a nightclub with a lacy black bra or camisole underneath, the neon shopping centre lights on her rather old, too light coloured bra made it stand out as if almost glowing, and overall gave the impression that she was wearing a set of extremely glitzy pyjamas, or worse, lingerie. "Oh my God," gasped Lena. "I didn't realise I was still wearing the suit." "Arjun, why didn't you say something about my clothes?" Arjun shrugged. "How was I supposed to know that you didn't want to wear that?" Lena put the suit jacket back on. Now that she looked at it in the bright white lighting of the supermarket, a horrible thought struck her. The suit was made of satin-like fabric. It was quite comfortable for a suit. What if this outfit was supposed to be a very fancy set of sleepwear and not a sequin suit at all? She threw the tomato paste and olives into the trolley and fastened her jacket over the see-through top by slotting one of the bobby pins from her hair over the join. "Come on, Arjun," she commanded. "We have to get home. I cannot wear this at the supermarket." Lena gathered up the confidence and stage strength of Madeleine, practiced over the months she'd spent performing at City Lights, and marched through the checkout with her uncurled, ordinary plaited head held high, returning to the car to flop down relieved in the driver's seat. The blurring of the lines that separated jazz bar Madeleine and farm chorister Lena had bothered her when Izzy walked into choir practice, but there were some benefits to letting Madeleine into Lena's life occasionally, like knowing how to act like the star of the show who can wear anything when caught out in the supermarket in lingerie. Betty had been right, and by the end of that week, the sun was shining. Rocket was looking itchy and disgruntled in the heat, and summer choir retreat had been arranged for Saturday. The Corellas and Galahs began to screech their way into their usual trees, and Rocket left Arjun's butterfly bush to join them, her plectrum-shaped silhouette an out-of-place bauble against each sunset. Arjun returned to his insect studies, checking the hollow beneath the bush for any dead specimens Rocket might have left behind. But even the millipedes were gone. The ground in the hideout swept clean, except for a few fallen leaves. "Sorry I tried to push you out of the bush at first, Rocket," Arjun told the chicken over breakfast on Friday, as she waited patiently for bacon rind. "Ark," Rocket answered him, head bobbing as she pursued Kumman around the table. "Really, all I needed to do was be nice to you and wait for the sun to come back," Arjun continued. Replied Lena, picking up Kumman. "Don't forget to sometimes be nice to Kumman too, will you?" She fed the cat one of Baxter's bits of bacon rind while he sat in her arms, out of Rocket's reach. On Saturday, the choir arrived in dribs and drabs, watched by the beady eyes of Rocket from the roof, Arjun from under his butterfly bush, Kumman from under the decking where he'd hidden from Rocket, and Lena from the kitchen window where she kept a keen eye out for Izzy. When Izzy arrived, Lena and Baxter were alarmed to see that she was wearing what were hopefully fake cobwebs in her hair, black lipstick, tombstone earrings, and teardrops drawn onto her face with eyeliner. When she came into the living room, Izzy caught sight of her reflection in the mirror above the mantelpiece and jumped as though she'd given herself a fright. "Oh, goodness," she giggled. "I forgot I was still wearing all this. I was DJing at this emo birthday party this afternoon, and I forgot to get changed." She gave an apologetic shrug. "I did think I might be too old for this look, which might be true if I can't remember I've put it on." Lena swatted her hand, smiling. "Nonsense. You're never too old for dress-ups. Maybe Izzy wasn't such a threatening rival after all. Well, that might be true, laughed Izzy. But I think I ought to take this lot off now. That LARPing lady of yours might think I'm trying to compete with her. She pulled a large shoulder bag off her shoulder. I've got my City Lights outfit with me for later. The manager said Lena and I can't both be off on the same night, so I'll have to leave early. Sorry, Baxter. She shrugged. I think they might be trying to make me sing. She gave a comical grimace, as though she found this funny. Lena's good-willed attitude of seconds before evaporated as she contemplated Dizzy as the DJ singing with watermelon juice in her place. Izzy had better not get the choir solo too. Down in the top paddock, Annae met Arjun by what was, in the winter, the fire pit. They each fixed the other with a tense glare as Annae drew from her pocket the ashes. The contents of the jar appeared to have melted slowly together over the months since they were placed there, now resembling a kind of coal-coloured chutney in a layer at the bottom, a couple of centimetres thick. Annae brought it up to eye level, pulling a face. I have a feeling we're both going to lose, she remarked. You open it, Arjun told her. I don't like really smelly smells. Annae shrugged, took a dramatic deep breath, and unscrewed the lid. Nothing dramatic happened. She leaned in with a cautious look and sniffed. Huh, she said. Smells like marshmallows. She extended the pinky finger of one hand into the jar and poked the dark-coloured glob. Oh, it's warm, Arjun, feel. Arjun put a reluctant finger on the marshmallow, finding to his surprise that the surface was still crisp and did not leave the sticky residue he was dreading on his hand. And it was, indeed, warm. It's just got hot in the car, he told Annae with a frown. Can you prove that? Arjun frowned some more. I guess not. So I was right, Annae squealed. Arjun winced. He didn't like it when Annae used her squealy voice. I could still be right too, he reminded her, a sceptical eye on the jar's contents. Annae produced a fork from her pocket. Arjun tried not to worry about the fork's journey to arrive here and took it from her with tentative fingers. Your bet, your test, Annae insisted. Arjun did his best to summon all of the logic that had told him in the winter that the marshmallow should still be good. He gathered the courage of many days spent looking at ants and flies and caterpillars and bees in the eye and practicing letting the dirt get into his shoelaces without throwing his shoes off. And he plunged the fork into the months-old marshmallow puddle, pulled out a squashed blob that vaguely resembled a single marshmallow specimen, and took a bite. The marshmallow was crispy on the outside and kind of rubbery on the inside. It still tasted like bitter charcoal spread on sticky, sickly sweetness, and Arjun's eyebrows shot up in surprise. I was right too, he exclaimed. Annae snatched the fork and ate a bit of the same marshmallow, which made Arjun pull a face and feel icky. But it was worth it, because then Annae laughed and said, You were right, so we both win. Arjun grinned. Yeah. He thought for a moment. You know what this means? No. It means we have to make new ashes for both of us, because A, we both won, and B, we're going to eat these ones. Annae nodded enthusiastically, and they ran for the farmhouse to work out a way to toast marshmallows without a bonfire. Arjun wasn't sure if this met the definition for being rivals. Perhaps that meant that they were actually friends. He'd have to think about that more later. Inside, the adults were about to put their own rivalries to the test. Right, Baxter announced. I want all of the altos who would be interested in the solo to sing it together. I'm going to wander round. Try to ignore me. He set a backing track running instead of playing the piano so that he was free to listen to them, and began to roam around between the singers. Lena and Izzy stood side by side, gaining volume with each line. But then it occurred to Lena that trying to sing the same melody, louder or in a different way to Izzy, was only causing their voices to blend together in an oversung racket. So she drew on the spirit of the winter retreats, where the choir always wrote a song together, on the delicacy with which, as Madeleine, she wove the stronger and softer parts of a song into a whole with contrast and meaning. She began to sing a subtle harmony, weaving in and out of Izzy's notes to form chords that soared higher than their voices in competitive unison could. One by one, the other altos dropped out and listened. And then the harmony was turned to disharmony as the ark of Rocket chasing Kummin out of the house joined the chorus. Those who'd witnessed Kummin's response to singing at previous retreats gave Rocket smiles of thanks. Neither squawking chickens or vomiting children in the bathroom across the hall could change the outcome, though. I think we have a duet, was all Baxter had to say on the matter. Later, when Lena was done ensuring that no more ancient burnt marshmallow was left inside Arjun or Annae, and Izzy said it was time she got going for the jazz bar, Baxter shrugged and inclined his head. Go on then, he said to Lena. I'll hear you both again on Monday. Izzy got changed into her bright floral jumpsuit, and Lena put on the sequined suit that might have actually been lingerie and showed it to her. Can I get away with wearing this? She asked. You can wear anything, Izzy said with a shrug. You're Madeleine. And so the lineup of watermelon juice expanded by one. Madeleine and Izzy taking in turns, so that every night at City Lights had live jazz, no matter which life each of them was leading at the time. And sometimes, like tonight, coming together to wow the crowds under the fairy lights of the bar's beer garden with the strength of their combined voices. On Mondays, Lena and Izzy went to choir in the community centre, where they sang side by side in jeans and bare faces and only sometimes accessories they'd forgotten they were still wearing. Because sometimes when you live two lives, having a partner in crime who, like you, straddles both, can smooth the lines instead of blurring them, help to keep all the juggling balls spinning, and clarify what makes both lives meaningful. And sometimes a rival is not an enemy, but a friend who challenges you to be better.
Beautiful. Well done.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
I liked Arjun's stats and data. He did a very thorough job of that.
He's a sweet character. I liked him a lot.
Arjun is fun. I get to look up lots of strange things to provide its information of Arjun. I don't know, though, whether marshmallows that have been cooked and then kept for several months in a jar are edible or poisonous, but
I was going to ask whether you'd done sort of actual research and trial jars, because it was very convincingly written.
Yeah. We need Storytime experiments.
Marshmallows on my windowsill. And, yeah.
I think the sugar content as a preservative is so high in marshmallows that I reckon you would have been right. I reckon you would have been right. Yeah.
Feasible, but yes. I think whether or not the marshmallows made the children sick, they may have just eaten too many extra marshmallows in the process of making them new ashes. So that's a mystery. So, we got any requests for topics for next time?
I think multitasking.
Multitasking.
What Anne's been doing tonight.
Yes, everybody's multitasking over there. What's happening in Australia? We're all trying to watch sport at the same time.
I actually attended a festival where I live. They have a folk festival. It was really lovely, but the weather wasn't. So the setup's fabulous. But what I couldn't understand was why people will book for a whole weekend knowing the weather in England is going to be rotten.
Yeah.
And then live in tents and then go and slide around somewhere to listen to a little bit of music. It was very good music. I slid 2 hours, but I think others slid for 2 days, 3 days. Don't get it. It's unusual going to places where you know you're going to have to struggle to enjoy the thing that you want to enjoy. So it's a bit complex,
like planning
but,
planning ahead may be a bit too much to, without knowing
yes,
what the conditions will be, or
yes,
or being like, I'm going to
yes,
do this anyway, even though I know it's going to be dreadful.
Yes.
I feel the same way about people who do like marathons and the hard challenges and things like that. Like
why do
do
they
Everest is
do
just
this
stupid, but like I had a friend who did where they had to drive for 2 hours to the country to do this big obstacle course where you run for 10 kilometers and do army style obstacles. And so like they made their other mutual friend like drive them there because they were going to be so exhausted and too tired to safely drive home from it. And like, why would you do it if it's so exhausting that like anyway.
Being invited to go to them by friends who love them and you not being the person who loves them.
Yes.
Having to join in. I'm sure one of your characters would have a lot to say about.
I think it depends if you've like built up to it and trained, and if you're like taking proper breaks, or if you just like,
I don't know. I think maybe it's also just a personality thing, because I remember I did the Cradle Mountain Trek in Tasmania, which is like a 7-day trek, and I had not trained for it, and I hurt my hip on the first day. Like I sprained my hip on the first day, but it was a really, really, really difficult time. But I'm now like, oh man, that was so good. I really want to go and do that again. So I think there's like a thing where if you're excited enough about the thing, the discomfort, it gets weighed out.
Maybe it's like excited enough about like living up to the challenge, because I've certainly had that. Like I've done back in Australia, I did with a friend from dancing this 12-kilometer run up a hill. It was called like something about the summit. It wasn't that steep of a hill, but it was mostly uphill, this run. And it was awful at the time, especially because I was late because I'd left my shoes at my office and had to go and pick up my running shoes and race there. And so we actually started a bit behind what the time everyone else started, and we managed to do quite well considering that. But it was very difficult, and it was really, really cold, so the air was like uncomfortable to breathe when you're running and stuff, and it's all uphill. It's really tough, and then we were really exhausted, and then afterwards I was like, that was great, because I'd done it.
I think you could have a retrospective in
Sorry, Mom and Alison were talking at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
What did you say, Mom?
Alison? I said retrospective enjoyment of things.
Retrospective enjoyment, yeah.
And
what did you say, Alison?
Or alternatively, retrospective, I'm never doing that again.
Yep.
Maybe you could have two characters who do this difficult thing together, and one of them goes, actually, I didn't think that was going to be good, but that was great. And the other one goes, I thought that was going to be good, but that was terrible. I just wanted to add in a request of having one friend who can do a thing, like the one friend who can make phone calls, or the one friend who knows how to use Excel. and everyone has to go to them for that thing because no one else knows how to do it.
Yeah.
An unofficial consultant type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then why have we got this many? Because we're doing a bit of reorganization in the house, and part of this has meant opening the top of the wardrobe, which you can only access by a ladder. We do this kind of thing in Australia. In the top, you put things like your camping equipment and your suitcases and things.
Yeah.
My question would be, why did we, until I've pulled a number out this afternoon, have 6 sleeping bags? And 4 air mattresses, one of which has never been used.
You're
Oh my
providing the
God.
sleeping gear for everyone at a sleepover.
Yeah.
My suggestion I want to add is, why didn't you tell me this sooner? But not for like anything that's like majorly important. But so my story is that the second semester of my course, and I've got one of the tutors is the same as first semester. And this time he does like a little 3-minute introduction about how he came to be a mature age student, as an example of a 3-minute talk we just have to do on something to get people talking. Yeah. But in it, he mentions that he likes cats. And I was like, I've known you for a whole semester and you didn't tell me you like cats. And I was wearing a cat jumper in several sessions. Why didn't you tell me this?
I could have liked you all this time.
Yeah.
I could have
We
been
could have
listening.
been friends over
Yeah.
cats. So, Lloyd, you had a topic request, and I said, please remind me of that at the end of the story. Do you remember what it was?
Doing things for an animal being good and the animal being.
Oh, right. When you have to do something for an animal and it's for their own good, but they really don't like it.
That's a good one for us.
Very good one for us.
We still thought it might be relevant to you as well.
And just by the way, the air pump that went with the blow-up mattresses was quite useful, blowing up rivers, puff-up cone. They have to work. It looks a bit like a travel pillow.
Yeah.
It's an alternative to the light bulb type one, you know, the light shade. She's got one of those. Something, you know, that's hidden in the depth of your house.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff is, what the heck have we got all that for? But there's this one little bit that's meant to go with that.
It's useful.
That is really useful.
Mm.
So you can do all of that away, but not this. Because
like, you know, the one really useful or nice discovery when you're clearing out junk. Yeah. All right. I'm going to get my last show and tell.
Oh, goody.
And I'll tell you the story.
I've been doing all the, I'm following on here.
Does anybody got any guesses what this is? Why am I showing you this?
It's a lampshade.
No.
It looks like all
you
the
didn't ask about the size of the brooch that you are.
I was like, did you try and buy like a rabbit tooth thing and you were expecting it to be small and then it's come huge? Like
close.
That's just what comes in all my packages as insulation stuff these days rather than polystyrene.
Yes, correct. So this thing is almost as big as me. Is from the story being, when you buy things online, you don't always know how they're going to arrive or how they're going to be packaged. Now, when we moved to this house, we had a lot of cardboard boxes, not only from boxes we had for moving, but also boxes from new stuff that we got for the house. And so we had this enormous pile of cardboard. And those who live in the UK or have lived in the UK will be familiar with how small the paper and card recycling bin is. And the fact that if you want to put extra out, it's got to be like a neat small pile tied up with string that would fit in the bin, basically. So getting rid of lots of cardboard and paper is quite difficult. So eventually I paid someone to come and take all the cardboard and also a bunch of styrofoam packing material. And they came and they did that, and that was great. And then Lloyd got a little bonus, and we got a bunch of stuff for the house and garden, and it all came in great big boxes, and back came the pile of cardboard. So then a couple of weeks ago, I spent most of an afternoon neatly cutting it up because, okay, I'm not going to pay someone again. I'm going to make these neat stacks that can go out by the bin, and we'll put out a couple at a time, each once a month paper and cardboard collection. So I've got all these neat, they're still in our spare room, but it's not totally full of paper and cardboard anymore. But now my birthday's coming up soon. And one of the things I put on my list that people could get for me is some things from the plant shop. And yesterday I came home from foraging for the rabbits, and there was this box in the porch, which was sort of taking up most of the porch. And I thought, this is probably a big box because it's got live plants in it, because they often put them in a really big box with some kind of special holders and lots of room in the top. And it had sort of the handles and stuff, but it didn't say this live plants this way up. It did say fragile. I opened the box. The first thing I see is this piece of paper. Then this is one of probably like 6 different massive bits like this, and they're packed around. So what are some very lovely terracotta pots that are about this big, and the rest of it is paper. So now the room is a pile of this, in addition to a bunch of new cardboard that has arrived. So I'm not sure how I'm going to get of this paper.
Yeah, I was going to say, A, do you have a fireplace? B, can you compost?
We could try to sort of compost it. That might work if we wet it enough, perhaps.
C, do you have a local kindergarten who might want just random bits of paper and cardboard for craft?
No, I think you should convince someone that it's a thing that you can play an amazing game with, like the cheese rolling or something like that.
Oh, roll it down the hill.
And people will fight you for them. You know, like, I really want one of those.
Unfortunately, this one is just really magnificent because it's this lovely coil, but then not all the bits are like this. A lot of them are sort of sausage shapes or like concertina bits that so there's a series of pieces, but this one is the most aesthetically pleasing. When I saw it, I thought, is there something coiled up inside? But that's just how they've done the protective layer.
That one you could just paint on one side and it would have like patterns, and then put it on the wall and be like, yeah, it's art.
Paint it and sell it as art.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does Lloyd still do archery? I'm imagining or
if you're going somewhere and you're not really sure of the way, you don't have a great sense of direction, could like pin one end and just unreel it as you go so that you can
use it as breadcrumbs. Maybe I could make some kind of paper sculpture.
Paper mache.
Paper mache rabbit maybe you could make a paper.
Well, trouble is then if the rabbits look outside the big glass sliding door, they see what appears to be a giant.
Yes.
Very much.
Just make lots of random paper mache sculptures, and anytime someone has a birthday, give it to them, and they're like,
"There you go, and make a sculpture." Oh, good idea. These are good ideas for uses for that. Thank you, everybody.
I have a submission.
Okay.
I guess my story is I've been having trouble with my feet with hiking.
Yep.
And I thought it's probably the orthotics that I have. So I thought I'll go to the podiatrist and I'll see about getting some better orthotics, because the ones that I had were basic sports med. I didn't want to pay the $1,000 and get the custom design ones. And I thought, you know what? I'm having problems. It's time to just spend the money and get the right thing. And I saw the podiatrist, and she told me that my left orthotic was only correcting my foot about 60% out of 100. And the right one was correcting my foot about 25%.
Oh.
I have learnt that the things that are meant to be helping me have actually not been helping me at all. And I've had them for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, she said they're not really doing anything for you at all. So I guess having an item that's not doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah, so you're going along happily thinking that, well, I've got this thing and therefore it's okay, and it's helping fix this problem, and really it's not actually doing it.
It's not.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We've got a good range of requests for September. So I'll look forward to putting something together with those. And if you think of anything else, or you have stories related to today's topic and you want to share, put them in one of our chats.
Good to see you. Take care.
Thank you all for being here.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye all.